Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. It has been a hot minute, and much has changed. Many things have been happening. We have a new social network movie coming out starring Kendall Zuckerberg, and we've got an Ocarina of Time remake that no one asked for.
Yeah.
Kidding,
Honestly,
kidding. I'm excited for it. Uh, and Obsession and Backrooms are taking over the world. Doctor Who is dead. A lot of things have been happening. So,
yeah, world
how are you,
politics
David?
are as crazy as they've ever been.
Yeah.
The Knicks are in the NBA Finals, which is very exciting. I'm doing really well. Another thing that's changed since the last episode, we are both up in Alaska, but actually in different cities. It's kind of funny. Regan and I actually met in the spot that he's currently at. I worked up there my first season and then went over to a different city. And it's been lovely up here. That's kind of been at least part of the reason why we've taken a while to get out another episode of Empty Screening is because we've moved and we're working over the summer and our schedules are busy and you guys get how it is. But we're back. And yeah, like Regan was saying, a lot of crazy news is happening. On the video game front, the Nintendo Direct I thought was very mid. Couple cool announcements, but pretty mid. But Persona 6 was announced, which is one of my most anticipated video games ever. Been waiting for that game for years and years. And a new Resident Evil game was announced, which I'm excited about, or a new remake of a Resident Evil game. And yeah, just like so many cool things are happening right now. And in the movie world, I mean, we got a new Steven Spielberg movie coming out, which unfortunately we might not get to talk about on the show just because it's not going to be playing where Regan is at. I would love to have the chance to talk with you about it, just so we could say that we have every Steven Spielberg movie discussed at some point. You know,
Yeah.
we could do it a little bit further down the line, maybe, but I would love to talk about it. So yeah, fun episode today. I'm really excited to talk about it. Any other like itinerary stuff you want to mention before we just dive right in, Regan?
No, I just got one question for you. Have you seen a samurai who smells like sunflowers?
You know, I haven't. And today we are going to be talking about Samurai Champloo. Is that's how you say it, right? That's how I've been saying it. Samurai Champloo.
Champloo or Champloo? I say one of those. So
Okay. Yeah. So I guess I'll kind of tell my story around this show and with Watanabe, his other work and whatnot. Basically, for years and years, I had been wanting to watch Cowboy Bebop. I felt like it was right up my alley. I loved the music for it. You know, it looked so slick and cool. And I had heard about Samurai Champloo, but it was more of like off in the distance, like I need to watch Cowboy Bebop first. So I actually started watching Cowboy Bebop this year and was just obsessed. I loved it. I was watching it with a roommate of mine. We watched it together, and because of that, it took us a while to finish it, but I was just blown away by it. I loved the vibes, I loved the characters, the music, the themes, you know, just everything about Cowboy Bebop was really speaking to me. And so I knew immediately that I wanted to watch Samurai Champloo because everything that I had seen of it online, in clips, like people just talking about it on the street, it seemed like it would just be just as much up my alley. And so I was very excited to get started on it. And when I did, uh, knocked my socks off. I mean, I'm talking instantly one of my favorite TV shows I've ever seen, like top 10 for sure. I am obsessed with this show. While I was watching it, I couldn't put it down. Every episode is so quality and the consistency is so high. I'll kind of dive more into the nitty gritty thoughts about the show in a little bit, but it really just kind of rocked my world there for the week or so that I was watching it. But Regan, I know you've been a fan for a lot longer than me. Tell us about your story.
yeah. Well, end of junior year in high school, I started watching a lot more anime. Uh, I had not been exposed to much before that, but I found a list of like must watch animes on your list or whatever, and at the top, of course, was Cowboy Bebop, and so I watched Cowboy Bebop, and I fell in love with it. I was I was and still pretty much am obsessed with that show. It is incredible. I love the vibes of it. The characters are amazing. It gives me chills every time I watch it. It's a it's a great show. And it was kind of the same as you, like Samurai Champloo was kind of at the edge of my peripheral. It was on my radar, but I just knew it was from the creator of Cowboy Bebop, and so I put it on and I watched it. And I thought it was great, but not as good as Bebop. That's where I left off when I first watched it. And then I left on a mission, and so for 2 years I did not consume media, and I only had my thoughts to keep me by. And I thought a lot about like, Star Wars and what the last Star Wars movie was going to be, and that once I found out that that killed my soul. I thought
Yeah.
a lot about Cowboy Bebop during that time, and potential of like because I always thought you could continue the story of Cowboy Bebop in some way, from in my perspective at least, and so I speculated a lot about that. And I thought a little bit about Champloo too, but not as much. And so during that time, I just let my thoughts stew and think about it. And then when I got back from my mission, of course, a lot of things happened. Uh, I was completely destroyed on the Star Wars front, and my
Yeah.
hopes and dreams are crushed. Uh, the live action Cowboy Bebop show from Netflix was released right after I returned home,
Oh no.
and I watched that, and that also very much hurt my soul. It was not fun to watch. I did not like it. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. It visual offense to my eyes. And then uh, during that time, I rewatched Champloo, and this time I was paying a lot more attention to it, and I was in a different headspace. I came out of it wanting to watch it again, and so I gave it like maybe 2 months, and then I went and I watched the show again. And after it finished, I watched it again, and then I rewatched Bebop, and then I realized I think Champloo might be better than Bebop. And now we're here, 2026. Samurai Champloo is my favorite anime of
Wow.
all time.
And
I really
you,
turned around on it.
yeah, I loved Cowboy Bebop. I was obsessed with it. I loved just everything about it. And what I was so shocked about with Samurai Champloo, and I wasn't expecting this to happen, was everything just kind of worked more for me with Samurai Champloo. All the ideas in Cowboy Bebop sometimes came across a little messy. Maybe there were, I loved everything they were throwing at us, but with Samurai Champloo, it feels like he refined his style. He took what he learned from Cowboy Bebop and perfected it with Samurai Champloo, and I really think that's true. And Regan and I have our disagreements about various art and whatnot, but I'm with Regan on this one. I do think Cowboy Bebop is less good than Samurai Champloo, and in some aspects, I still love both shows a whole lot, but I'm so excited to just get into this. So, Regan, what? Hold on. Like, what clicks with you about Samurai Champloo? Like, what do you think it is that makes it better show than Cowboy Bebop?
Uh, well, first off, I think the thing about Champloo that really works like without this, I think it would be a significantly less interesting show. It's the fusion of the samurai period with hip hop and that culture. It is, I can't believe they nail it. And like you would never think those two cultures could ever intersect at all, but they make a perfect synergy in this show. And in every episode, they bring like an element of, you know, the hip hop or even black culture into the samurai period, and it just works.
Yeah.
It is I really can't believe it. And then sometimes they'll play one of the episodes a little more straight and like focus a little more on like the Japanese history and the Japanese culture, but then there's still going to be like some undertones and currents of uh you know the hip hop, like mainly through the music, which we'll get to. But it's mainly the style that really nails it on the head and really makes Champloo what it is.
I agree. One thing that you just kind of you can't talk about it without bringing it up is just how beautiful the animation is in this show, how slick it is, how fluid it all is. I love the way the characters move in this show, and yeah, it's a very punk aesthetic for the samurai. It's very hip hop coded. It's you wouldn't think that those two different things would combine together, but they do. Like how Cowboy Bebop is a mixture of jazz and old westerns and space operas like Star Wars. This is just samurai and hip hop that is blended together. And I think just by focusing in on those two distinct elements like hip hop and samurai, it makes it feel a little bit more cohesive than Cowboy Bebop does at times, where that show sometimes is throwing things at the wall just to see what will stick. This is like, we know what we are dialing in on, and this is what our show is about and is going to be like throughout the whole runtime.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other reason why, for me, Champloo works a little better than Bebop is that Bebop, they both have an overarching story that it focuses on, but in Champloo at least, and this may be on purpose because in Champloo at least it feels a little more focused
Yeah.
in on the end goal, and I appreciate that. With Bebop, it's a little more aimless, and I think that might be on purpose because when the main character Spike, he is doesn't really have a purpose in life, and he's trying to find it, and so that may be the reason why Bebop is a little more back and forth and jumps from like tone to tone, which I can get by. That's great. I love Bebop still, but for me at least, the having the end goal in mind and having a through line through all the episodes, or at least most of the episodes, like that makes it connects Chompy together and makes it more engaging for me.
Yeah, there are a lot of similar themes at play between these two, and I think one of the most common one is just friendship. As corny as that might sound, but Cowboy Bebop is a lot about finding meaning in the people around us and the people in our lives, right? And I think that's a lot of what is going on in Samurai Champloo as well. It's not really about the journey. There is that throughout the whole show. It's really about the different steps along the way, just like seeing these characters slowly grow and mature. And at first you think maybe they're not going to grow and mature, but very slowly and meticulously and in fascinating ways, these characters do change and are different from the beginning of the show until the end. So maybe we should just talk about the three main characters, right? The basic, unless if there's something else you'd like to say. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one other thing I'd like to mention before we get to that, which is the other part of the style that really makes it work, which is the absolutely perfect music that accompanies this show. There's a variety of artists that collaborate, to make the soundtrack for this show, including a duo called Force of Nature, Fat John, Suchi, and of course the immortal, the incomparable Nujabes, the king of lo-fi, basically the creator of that entire genre. Without the soundtrack as well, I don't think Champloo would work nearly as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some tracks that just blow me away in this show, and they really make some moments hit hard. It is so effective with just that music behind it.
Yeah, it's interesting because jazz, specifically like jazz fusion, which is present in Cowboy Bebop, is very sporadic and free flowing, kind of like the character of Spike in Cowboy Bebop. In this show, it's a lot more meticulously crafted. It's a lot more deliberate. It's kind of repetitive. And I think that fits in perfectly with what this show is going for as well. I'm also just kind of new on the new Jabba's train. I was actually on another different YouTube side project with a friend of mine where we talked about music, and he introduced me to New Java's on that show. And I couldn't stop listening to the Lovesick songs. Like, I would play those songs on repeat over and over and over again because it's just like such fascinating production. And I'd never heard a hip hop that sounded quite like it. It's very homespun. Like you said, it's the birth of lo-fi, but done with so much more care than you'd expect on your traditional like lo-fi anime hip hop beats to study while listening to. It's like very impressive, the craft that goes into these songs. And so I was really excited to watch this season. And what really surprised me as well was how many of the songs I actually already knew or had heard before. Like, I'd be watching an episode and I'd be like, what, that's from Samurai Champloo? I had no idea. I've heard that in like a Instagram reel or something like that, Yeah, the music throughout this whole show is masterful. And alongside that, I think all of these elements that we've been talking about, the animation, the style, the music comes together for an amazing opening. I love the opening of Samurai Champloo. The song took me like maybe 2 episodes for it to really click with me. And then I just couldn't get it out of my head for like the next, until today. I'm still thinking about how good the opening song Battle Cry is for this show. It's so slick. It's so awesome. Captures just that effortlessly cool vibe the show has throughout its whole runtime. This show is just cool. I can't think of a single other thing off the top of my head that matches this show and just how cool and slick it is. So yeah, I love the opening for this show as well. Big fan of the music.
Yeah, and it nails it so hard that even now, like when in the game Ghosts of Yote, they have a mode called Watanabe mode, which is when you fight enemies, it plays lo-fi beats that were composed by Shinichiro Watanabe.
Whoa.
As a tribute to Champloo, and it is so fun to do that mode. That's the reason why I like the game, is because it actually acknowledges, the impact Samurai Champloo has had on that genre.
Yeah, I want to play it now too. I had no idea that was even a thing. While we're talking about the style, I mean, it just nailed this show. One of the biggest praises I can laud upon it is it nails the feel of those classic samurai films. Your Kurosawa pictures, your Kobayashi features, Harakiri or Seven Samurai. This show is a lot sillier than those movies. It's a lot more modern. It's hip hop. Obviously, it's not going to be exactly like those, but it captures the weight that those movies had. It captures the gravitas of them. It captures the aura of those films. It's when it has a compelling storyline in one of its more serious episodes, it's going to hit you in the feels. It is going to get you emotionally impacted. And that is so rare that a show can do both, that it can be fun and silly and enjoyable for everybody while also having that emotional gravitas weight of the classic cinema of like Kurosawa. It's an incredibly impressive balancing act this movie manages to keep with its tone throughout the whole runtime.
Yeah. All right. With that, I think that's a good place to kind of transition into talking about the story and the characters of Samurai Champloo. Uh, so Samurai Champloo is about three people. Uh, we meet a young girl named Fu, who is a waitress at a tea house, and one day there are some unsavory people in this tea house, and a vagrant named Mugen walks through the door and offers to drive them off. And from there, another samurai named Jin walks in, and their lives are forever changed. These three people's lives intersect and become intertwined with one another, and Fu hires the two of them to help her find a samurai that smells of sunflowers. And it's such a simple premise that works so well to just propel them on these crazy and sometimes wacky adventures that they get on, and the perils they face together. And I love, one of my favorite things about this is that before we get to like each individual character is that it really they really try and establish this dynamic as naturally as possible, because the first episode they get together, and Fu manages to save them, and so they're indebted to her, and the second episode is them trying to work together for the first time, and then by the third and fourth episode, you're thinking, why don't they just ditch her? And they do that. They literally do that in the third episode.
Yeah.
And you see how well that works out, because they end up just back together again. There's something beyond them is drawing them together, and so they kind of accept it, and then their dynamic grows from that. And so I really like that Watanabe took the time to like show the reasons why they needed to be together and grow together and eventually reach the end goal of finding the samurai. So yeah, that's the story in the nutshell. But yeah, we can get to the characters. So
Yeah. Okay. So you have Mugen, and he is like you said, the Ronin. He's fierce. He's a great warrior, but he's kind of like a dog. He doesn't have very many morals. He's kind of a scoundrel. Just very unpredictable in his fighting. And juxtaposed to him, you have Jin, who's very calm and calculated and precise. And then, of course, you have Fu, who is a bit more playful, fun. She's just there enjoying the journey along with these two. She'll get frustrated at them very frequently. And one of the things I love about all three of these characters is they're such strong. What's the word I'm looking for? They're such strong personalities, and you've probably seen these personalities before in other shows. So you automatically know like the type of character they're going to be just from the introduction, just from the opening. But they do so much with each one of them that they don't just feel like caricatures. They feel like actual people within this world. That I think that's one of the big things I love about Watanabe's work is what he does with his characters is so compelling and rich and detailed, and it's not like static characters throughout their whole time. They are very dynamic, and they're changing, and they have so much nuances to them, which I really, really appreciate, especially in a show like this. What we've kind of talked a little bit about this off of the show, but who would you say are which of the core three would you say is your favorite, Regan?
that is a really difficult, like, it feels like a cop out, but I would honestly say I like all three of them very equally.
Yeah.
I don't have a standout favorite. The show has a standout favorite that they like to focus on.
Yeah.
That much is clear, but I like all three of them pretty much equally. They all have their plus and ups and downs, their reasons why I like them, and their different little quirks that I like. Um, but do you have a favorite?
I think it's Jin. I love Jin. He's so cool. I've always liked the silent, badass type characters, and but I love all three. They're all so good, and it's definitely Mugen who gets the most attention. He gets some of the hypest moments, but then I think Jin gets the coolest part of the whole show towards the end that we can talk about later if we want to. But I'm kind of team Jin, but I love all three. And then Fu is a lot of fun as well. I love Momo, which did Avatar: The Last Airbender rip that off from Samurai Champloo? I actually don't know because both of their like lemur pets or hers is a flying squirrel and theirs is a lemur, but they're both named Momo, and I was like, well, that's interesting. I wonder if they were inspired by Samurai Champloo.
Yeah. But let's just go through the characters really quick.
Yeah.
Talk about them each by turn. But yeah, let's start with Mugen. As you say, the show very clearly prefers Mugen. He gets a lot of the hype moments in this show. And there are quite a few episodes that focus on him as a character, or at least on him as a fighter. That like I think he gets 3 episodes where it focuses in on him like improving his fighting style and improving as a fighter and becoming a better fighter, which is kind of crazy. Like that's pretty cool. Because at the beginning of the show, if I may be so bold, I do believe that at some point Jin probably would have killed Mugen.
Yeah.
At some point he would have gotten the edge over Mugen and killed him. But by the end of the show, I think they're on equal footing. And the thing that really hits with Mugen is when the show starts peeling back like his rough exterior and giving you an insight into like his childhood. I won't talk about it here, but there's a pair of episodes, a 2-parter episodes, that's one of my favorites in the show, and it's all about Mugen's backstory. And so it's in those moments that it's really gets exciting to like watch Mugen go off in those moments. And he also, again, he's a very funny character. I think he gets the biggest laughs out of me when I watch his show.
Yeah.
He is really stupid, and he's kind of the Spike character. If he had a equal comparison to Bebop, like he's the most like Spike in a way. And also shout out to Kazuya Nakai, who is the voice actor for Mugen. He voices Zoro in One Piece, and so it is very funny to hear him voice Mugen, and you kind of hear the similarities in the voice delivery between him and Zoro. It's pretty funny. But yeah, Mugen, great character, great way. The show does love Mugen, and I'm okay with that because he does get some very excellent development throughout the show.
Yeah, there's a clear arc with him as a person and his relationship with the other two in the squad. And I was actually really touched by the end, by the development of his relationship with the other two. And I don't think we're going into spoilers, but yeah, I was impressed with how subtly they convey their strengthening bond as a party. I thought that was very cool. And then we'll talk about Jin. So Jin is the reserved samurai, by comparison to the other two, I actually think he probably gets the least amount of like notable moments in the show. Would you agree with me on that? He maybe gets, or maybe it is Fu. I don't know. Like there's only really one episode actually dedicated to him where he's kind of like the main principal one, I'd say. But I don't know. Do you disagree with me on that, Regan?
I slightly disagree,
Okay.
but we can get to that.
Yeah. So Jin, he is kind of like the silent type, you know. I love the competitiveness he feels with Mugen, and for a lot of the show, it's what's keeping them together, is that they just want to kill each other, and Fu isn't going to let them fight each other, and I like that dynamic between the two of them. There's also an incredibly sweet set of relationships that he goes on. I think his the bonds he forms with other people in the show, characters in the show. Episode 11 in particular, which let me pull up the episode title just so I can.
Gamblers and Gallantry.
Gamblers and Gallantry is the name of it. Is an excellent episode. Kind of hearkening to what we were talking about earlier, where the show understands the weight. It knows when to not pull back the punches on letting you feel the emotional gravitas of what it's going for. And so I love that you get those side, the more emotional side of Jin and the more badass side of Jin as well. So I'm a big fan of him. Yeah, and I do think he has the coolest moment of the whole show towards the end. So, yeah.
Yeah. I would agree that he definitely gets a less focus than Mugen does in the show, but I think the snow kind of, I think the show kind of like how Jin is quiet and kind of stands in the background sometimes. The show does the same with his character moments and when it brings that forward, because Jin's plotline through the show is how he killed his master of the dojo, and so now the government and the dojo is kind of hunting him and trying to find him. And so there's that one episode with the that outlandish samurai. He's like trying to write a book. He's infatuated with Fu. He has that one disciple who like beatboxes behind him. It's really funny.
Yeah.
And then it's revealed at the end, one of them was actually from Jin's dojo and only used that guy to hunt Jin, which is really cool. It's a really like cool reveal and a good way to implement Jin's character a little bit. And then later there's another one where Jin meets basically the Vegeta of the dojo, and they were best friends in the dojo. And so he shows up to hunt him as well during one of the two-parters. And so it, like, the show doesn't focus on him solely a lot. Like, Gamblers of Gallantry is basically the only one, but the show finds the opportunity to give him moments of development, and because he has less to learn than Mugen does.
Yeah.
Because he's already basically where he needs to be as a fighter. He just needs the point of him as he moves along in the show is just him warming up to other people and becoming a little more social.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's also a very touching arc. Again, there's a moment towards the end with Jin that got me a little misty-eyed. I wasn't expecting the show to do that to me, but it definitely did. Yeah, and then Fu, and she's kind of also a goofball here in the show. Jin is the serious one, playing off of these two very strong, intense personalities, especially with Mugen. But she's really the one who's pushing the narrative forward, right? She's the one who is the glue between these two polar opposite samurai warriors. She's the one that has the destination in mind. I saw a Letterboxd review where somebody was talking about all this show is just Fu getting captured and then boys being boys. And I thought that was funny, but I do think it's a little bit of a disservice to Fu because she also gets a lot to work with, and she has a lot of key moments narratively. And like I said, she is the one that is keeping this group together. They wouldn't be where they were without her. So I don't know. I really like Fu as well.
Yeah, and at this point, I am going to say this is now spoiler section.
Okay.
Because I am going to spoil some stuff with Fu.
So
So if you have not seen Samurai Champloo, you should.
yes.
If it's any indication from what we've been talking about, you should watch it, and you should not stick around because we are going to spoil it now.
Yes.
But with Fu, yeah, she's like the emotional heart of the story, and her, the final reveal of the show, like in the last 5 seconds of the show, is so perfect because it's very her, it's very Fu, and it leaves it on kind of a very fun note, and bittersweet as well. I won't say what that reveal is. I'll
Okay.
keep that secret
Yeah.
because it's a funny reveal. But what something else, and this is a little more dark. Well, both of these things, like the Sunflower Samurai is her father, so we're the entire show we're looking for Fu's dad, and she has a lot of resentment towards him, and her intentions are not very honorable, as we find out. She may or may not have wanted to take his life, uh, as implied. Maybe it's never confirmed whether or not she was actually going to do that, but I find it very interesting that it implies it. Uh, that we also get, and this is pretty dark. The whole show, Fu is a little thirsty. She wants a man. She wants to find the man of her dreams, and she wants to, get down and dirty sometimes, which leads to some very funny moments. But then in the three-parter finale, she gets captured, as she sometimes does, and that psycho, that sick freak, puts his hands on her, and it is the most uncomfortable moment of the entire show, and I think it's on purpose because she's, in a way, like, she wanted that, but not in that way, and it feels very much like a flower, being trampled on a little. It's a very sad moment, and thankfully, he gets comeuppance, and he gets what's coming to him. Thank goodness. But it's kind of a reflection of, you gotta be Fu has to, learn to take care of herself, and by the end of even after that, and by the end of the show, like, that after everything, like the entire show, everything she's been through, she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And she will find the man of her dreams, and all of that. It's just that, moments like that, though, it kind of shows how well the show itself is able to balance the seriousness and the gravity of some moments with the silliness of others.
Yeah, I think it was such a smart choice to have Mugen and Jin just not be romantically interested in Fu at all through the entire show. I was sure at some point there was going to be like at least some spark, and they do this with Bebop as well, where I was like with Valentine, I was like, oh man, are they going to have her be like in love with Jet? And it doesn't really end up happening because the bond that these characters form is more deep than just like a romantic one, or like they kind of like each other. I think Fu maybe likes both Mugen and Jin, but they're not interested in her at all, which is a really funny dynamic. And I like that the way the three play off of each other. And one of my favorite elements of this show is that stories just are so naturally popping up around because of these characters. Like, these are such strong characters that the stories can just kind of pop up naturally because of how good the characters are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I love the dynamics between all of these three. I love how they play off of each other. I love each one individually. Yeah, I think they're fantastic. I guess since we are in spoiler territory, I would love to talk about the last three episodes because I think they're just excellent. So excellent. And we can talk about some of our other favorite episodes. But basically, everybody's arc gets wrapped up very satisfyingly. Mugen, the guy who the entire time has always said that he only cares about himself. He's only in it for himself. And Jin, who's also kind of a loner, end up sacrificing themselves to some capacity to help save Fu, which is just a really sweet addendum to their arc. They didn't have to do that. They did it because they care about Fu. And after they've both been injured after these big fights that they have, Jin says that all he really needed in the world was just a friend. And after they had been trying to kill each other this whole season, I thought it was very sweet. I wasn't expecting it to hit as hard as it did when he called Mugen a friend, but you can tell that they really are friends, and I love that aspect of it.
Yeah. And it's so funny because despite their personality differences, they really are two sides of the same coin. Like they agree far more than they disagree. They're both incredibly horny sometimes,
Yeah.
which is very funny. Sometimes they don't think about situations. Sometimes they're both. Jin is surprisingly also very stupid sometimes in this show, which is very funny. And yeah, the finale really does wrap up for all three of them. Also concludes their stories because like Fu finds her father, and we get a resolution to that. Jin avenges his master. We find out a whole backstory behind why that he had to kill his master and the real circumstances behind it. He gets the best duel in the entire show during the finale, which is amazing. And Mugen finally gets to, really show what he can do as a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And, by the skin of his teeth, he makes it out and, faces those three brothers. So.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of which, I remember the first time I watched it, one of the moments I was truly shocked was when after he's killed the crazy youngest brother and then the middle scumbag brother, he's standing there thinking he won, and the older brother moves in his chair and shoots him in the back, and I was flabbergasted. It was a crazy little twist that they built up to.
Yeah.
That I loved.
Oh man, the fights in the show. I can't believe we haven't talked about this because I love animation. I think anime is one of the greatest spots where you can find like hard-hitting action scenes, and I am obsessed with the action in this show. It is so fluid. It's fast-paced. It hits hard. You feel every punch. You feel every sword swing. I love the sound effect they do anytime they swing a sword. Just the clean whoosh sound is so awesome. And so when Jin is fighting the master swordsman, I forget his name. You probably know better than me. He's the best swordsman in Japan history. He doesn't even use a sword anymore because he knows that he's just going to lose. That fight was unbelievable, and how it was animated, and again, just the emotional impact of it. And I think it was a very, very satisfying conclusion of how the fight ended, with Jin allowing himself to be stabbed so he could stab him. That was just like the perfect way that a fight against the ultimate swordsman would go for Jin. I loved that for him. It was awesome.
Yeah. And then I guess switching gears just a little bit, outside of the finale, I kind of want to talk about some of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
First one I need a shout out is episode 15, Bogus Booty, in which they find counterfeit money in the river, and Mugen and Jin use that money to have a night out in the red light district, and uh, the entire episode, Mugen is motivated by one thing and one thing only: his sex drive,
Yeah.
which is very funny. Um, and we get some great action. We meet one of my favorite side characters, which is Yatsuha, the female ninja that Mugen becomes infatuated with. It's a very goofy and Fu gets to do nothing the entire episode, which
Yeah.
is also funny. It's one of the sillier episodes, but it is still so much fun. Um, that's one of mine, and we can go back.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of sillier episodes, there's the classic. I think this is kind of one of the more beloved episodes. It's the baseball one. Let me pull up the exact name. Baseball Blues is what it's called. I'm always kind of a sucker for sports episodes and TV shows. Or there's a baseball episode in JJK that's a lot of fun as well. And I love the physical comedy of this show because it's animated. They're able to go so much more goofy with what happens in this baseball match. And again, kind of tying into that American culture and Japan culture with hip hop and America. And obviously, baseball has such an important role in Black history as well. And so it's cool to see those two intersect. It's also just fun to see like how Americans are portrayed throughout this show, and Christians as well. I think is really funny. Yeah, Baseball Blues is one of my shout outs.
Yeah. Another one of my shout outs. This is a more serious episode. I like a lot of the serious episodes.
Me
But
too.
one that I love is, what episode is it? It's episode 7, A Risky Racket. In
Yes.
which Fu meets a pickpocket named Shinsuke, and that has one of the most the ending of that episode is a huge gut punch. That is a very good episode. That's all I can say about it. It's got the emotion, and Fu gets a lot to do, which I like. She gets to make a lot of impact on Shinsuke and the story itself.
Yes, I agree. Two others, another two-parter that I love is Elegy of Entrapment, in which they find a blind songstress woman who they take along with their journey, and they become friends with her, only to find out that she's actually a hired assassin trying to kill them. It's another one where it's a side character that I wish we saw more of because she is just so awesome. Apart from the main three characters, all of the side characters that are introduced in the show, while their screen time is minimal, are just so well written and so fun and so interesting that even in the short amount of time that you spend with them in the show, you just immediately grow attached to them. And she might be my favorite of all the side characters. I really loved her. And again, it leads to some amazing fight sequences, and the ending is another just gut punch one where you feel the weight of everything that's going on and pressed down on you. It's so awesome. And kind of on top of that, another one that's similar to the blind one, another two-parter, is I think it's Lullabies of the Lost, which is another fantastic episode. It kind of ties in neatly with Elegy of Entrapment. Both of those are amazing.
Yeah. And speaking of two-parters, one of my favorite two-parters is what I alluded to before, Mugen's backstory, which is Misguided Miscreants. This two-parter is so deliciously good. I love all the stuff we learned about Mugen and his backstory, and with his connections to his childhood friends and how none of them can really trust each other. And I love the twist of who is actually behind everything that happened, which is, the person you would least expect. and it leads to my single favorite moment of the entire show, uh, accompanied by a track which I memorized. It is called "The Million Wave Drum," composed by the duo Force of Nature. Uh, this girl and her boy toy are walking off, thinking all is well, and then suddenly in the distance, they see Mugen limping toward them, and then the drums hit, and oh my goodness, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It is one of the best moments I've ever seen in an anime. I love the ending of that. It's so good. That's definitely one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, another one that came to mind. I also love that two-parter. The whole sequence where he's drowning and it's like his life is flashing before his eyes is brilliant and just proof of Watanabe's masterful artistic approach. But I was thinking of the episode where they get caught at the border with fake IDs, and Mugen has to go and deliver a letter, and if he's not back in time, Jin and Fu get executed. That's another one that's just so hilarious, has fantastic action throughout as well. And I love the approach that they do in some episodes where it's like a historian is recalling the experience that they had when they ran into the trio. I like how they play around with narrative in that way with several different episodes as well. So, yeah. But
and speaking
okay,
of that episode where Mugen delivers that thing and then they all trip out on the field. That sequence where they start tripping out was done by Masaki Yuasa of Devilman Crybaby fame and The Night is Short, Walk on Girl, and Mind Game. His art style is very fun to recognize, and so it's really cool that he offered his talents and art style to that sequence.
Yeah.
So shout out to him.
I didn't know it was him, but I've seen all of those things and really enjoyed them. So very cool. But I think just going off of all this, what impressed me the most was that there are really only 2 episodes that I thought were just kind of okay. And that's like they have a flashback episode where they recount the events of previous episodes. Yeah, clip show episode. And it's fine. It's not like bad or anything. A lot of shows have clip episodes. And then there's a one with like zombie people and it feels a little out of place in the show. But apart from those 2 episodes, it really feels like the consistency and quality is throughout the whole, from episode 1 to the very last one. And that's very impressive to do. Like even a lot of my favorite shows, even my favorite show, Twin Peaks, has a lot of episodes that are just kind of okay. So to have this level of consistency throughout every single episode is very impressive.
There was another episode I wanted to shout out. I need to find it really quick, but oh yeah, another episode that I particularly like, and this is also on the sillier side of things, but it's episode, I believe, 18. Yeah, episode 18, War of the Words, in which they meet twin brothers who inherited their father's dojo, but instead of mastering the art of the sword, they have the art of graffiti. And so they have a graffiti duel to get revenge on the person who destroyed their lives. And it's a very funny episode, and it also has one of my favorite music tracks, which is the rap that plays near the end of that episode called Hichizuru Style. It's a fun episode.
Yes, I agree. I love that one. I love how proud of Mugen is of himself when he learns how to spell his name. He's super happy.
Oh my god!
It's awesome.
And it's fun. And that's more character development.
Yes.
Until episode 18, Mugen couldn't read.
Yeah.
And then he learns to read.
It's awesome. And I remember in a later episode, he reads something, and I was like, "That's my boy. He learned how to read." It's fantastic. But yeah, I'm I another element of this show that I just love is that it is episodic. I miss TV shows that are episodic where it has a full story, beginning, middle, and end within 22 minutes, or in the case of like the 2 or 3 parters, over the course of 40 or minutes or an hour. I love this. It made the whole show just fly by for me. And I really think that a lot of anime or just other TV shows in general should return to this format of the episodic structure. I really miss it. I think it leads to some of the funnest moments in the show. It allows the creatives to get a lot more creative with their ideas and do weird things that you wouldn't be allowed to do if there was just like one story arc across the whole season. So I really enjoyed the structure and pacing of this show as well.
Now, I just want to briefly segue into a segment that I'm going to call Pipe Dream, because even more than Bebop, I think Champloo had the most potential to have a season 2.
Yeah.
There are many things that they, and even characters that they bring into Champloo that have so much potential to them and offers a lot of openings into like a potential season 2. So this is my brief pitch for what Samurai Champloo season 2 would look like. The entire series, let's say it's how many episodes is it? 26 episodes?
Yeah, 26
right?
episodes.
Yeah. So it's 26 episodes. We focus again on our main trio. However, they do not meet until the finale of the entire season. They do not meet up again until the entire season. It builds up to them coming back together at the end. But you follow each 3 characters separately. First, Mugen and Jin are now both wanted by the government for different reasons. Jin, because he interfered directly with the government agent, the greatest swordsman ever. And so because he has killed him, he is on the government's hit list. And so we follow him as he's traveling, and he's becoming more and more famous, and maybe he begins a dojo of his own. Then we have Mugen. Now, in season 1, there is a throwaway joke, which is very funny, but you can use this for the reason why they're hunting Mugen. Mugen talks about a time where he ran into a guy with the symbol of the shogun, and he didn't know what it meant, so he just kills the guy.
Yeah.
It's very funny when he mentions it, but, this guy was probably very important. So the government is hunting him because of that. And the person assigned to track him down is Yatsuha, the
ninja.
secret police ninja who fell in love with him. And that's a little bit more on the silly side, and you can have like a little romantic dynamic start forming between the two. And also, at some point, Jin would reunite with that lady from Gamblers and Gallantry, obviously, because that was like a slam dunk. And then Fu's plotline is basically she gets employed by a noble, either in the shogunate or close to it, and she begins to see the politics and the corruption behind it. And it all leads to a final battle with not the shogun himself, because that would be way too outlandish, but with some high-ranking noble who is behind the corruption in their government, and he is the main antagonist, and that's how the 3, our main trio, comes back together to, basically bring him down. I think that would be, that for me, that is my pipe dream. I would love to see that happen. It never will, and I'm okay with that, because we have a perfectly good show that is perfect, and it doesn't need anything added on.
I agree.
If it did,
yeah, I agree that I would really love a season 2, but happy that we have a show that is just perfect as it currently is, and didn't necessarily need a season 2. I'll also add that Netflix, about a few months ago, announced that they're doing a live action Samurai Champloo. And I cannot. Oh, that is going to kill me, I think, because these Netflix live action adaptations, with maybe the exception of One Piece, which still isn't my favorite live action adaptation ever. I just feel like they always miss the ball, and they always look so ugly. And for shows that are so aesthetically pleasing and beautiful to look at, I cannot imagine having to sit through a very grayed out, blurry, poorly lit Netflix TV show that undermines the emotional weight of the arcs of each of the characters. Like, that sounds like dystopia to me. So
yeah,
apparently it's still in early stages. Maybe it just won't end up happening.
They'll cancel it.
Yeah. I hope they cancel it. So fingers crossed that does not happen. Maybe if it does, we can come back here and talk about it and see how we like it compared to the original show. But Samurai Champloo, a genuine 10 out of 10 for me. Masterpiece, I'd say. One of my favorite anime I've ever seen, if not my favorite. I think it's just flawless, perfect storytelling and character work, and not just pastiche. It's not just trying to do samurai stuff and hip hop stuff. It understands what makes those things work, and their cultures and the stories that those things have to tell, and is very smart in how they tell them. So it's a masterpiece in my eyes. I kind of just want to watch it again after talking about it with you, honestly. One of my favorite TV shows ever.
I couldn't agree more. So for the 6 people who are listening right now, if you've gathered anything from this, and if you're at the end of this, hopefully you've already seen it because we spoiled the whole show. Watch it or watch it again. It is very worth your time. It is a 10 out of 10. It is one of the best shows ever made. And I am not saying that lightly. So, yeah. Samurai Champloo.
Samurai Champloo. What a great show. Thank you all for tuning in. Comment down below what's your favorite anime. Comment down below also if you think Bush did 9/11 or not. We want to hear it. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.